talk about some other things as well that I had mentioned in the comments earlier. I want you guys to really understand that probably the majority of us are not what we are perceived to be, quote unquote, human. Okay? And when you think of extraterrestrials, that's exactly what we are. I'm not talking about anything alien related, I'm not talking about that. I am talking about individuals that has an intrinsic connection to the cosmic realm. Most of you don't even realize that the earthen realm itself was created for many different beings to come in and reincarnate on this realm to live out and grow past their karma. Okay? At any given time, I can look into you and see what your original spark was when Source first gave you life, their first spark. And whatever your first spark is, that is who you are at the core. It doesn't matter what you look like right now in this skin. Okay? That is who you are at the core. Now, for those of you that quote unquote believe in reincarnation or is aware of reincarnation, this message is for you. Throughout lifetimes, we have reincarnated many different times as many different beings. All of us did not incarnate as a human being. We have incarnated into various different beings. Okay? So, as those individuals are actually reincarnating here on the planet, what's happening is that this particular sun that we're dealing with right now is actually activating the original spark of who and what you are. Okay? I want you guys to understand that your paternal and your maternal ancestors, these are the ones that are connected both to your mother and father's side. Okay? That would be those ancestors who are your uncles and aunts. And then you start getting into grandparents and great-grandparents, et cetera, right? And as you continue to keep going down the line, you'll start to realize as you keep going deeper, not from anything that's written down on paper, but if you start going deeper by going within and communicating with your ancestors, then we have what you call first-wave ancient ancestors. Your first-wave ancient ancestors have always been galactic and have always been cosmic. And the proof of this is when you look at the ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics or you look at all the pyramids that are placed around the world. When you study the technology that they were utilizing at that time, which way that they were utilizing frequencies to build these pyramids. Okay? They were utilizing frequencies, they were utilizing technology. EMP devices is something that we've always had. That's not anything new. Okay? All the technology that you hear these Caucasians talking about isn't anything new. The technology that they're utilizing is technology that our first-wave ancient ancestors have always had. Okay? When you start talking about flying on saucers and spaceships, I need you guys to understand something, because I know that there's some people out here that don't really understand where I'm coming from and others that are coming from when we speak about these things, right? We built ships. We were the first ones to build them in this realm. Although we have teleported or we came through other portals, we have stargates. There's a total of like 12 main stargates and 24 sub-stargates on Earth. Not to mention that you have the stargates that are actually traveling, that the sun travels through and that the moon travels through. You guys should read the book of Enoch. It kind of breaks that down about how the sun travels around the sky and how the moon travels around the sky. Okay? There is many history accounts of our first-wave ancient ancestors. If you start studying the quote-unquote myth of Atlantis, which there's nothing mythical about it, it was a very real place. When you start studying Babylon, when you start studying the technology of Egypt and how Egypt was, and you guys have heard me say many times that we are 20,000 years behind Egypt when Egypt was in its prime. And I'm not talking about the Egypt overseas that you know to be Egypt. I am talking about the Egypt that inside the country called the United States of America. Okay? Now, what they've done, and you guys can go look this up on your own, You need to start studying the different animals that they show in depictions on the so-called hieroglyphics over in Egypt. If you look past the hieroglyphics and you look at the statues that are placed there, you need to take a look at that. You need to take a look at the rams, which are known to be from the Americas. Okay? When you start talking about the Teotihuacan pyramid here, which is really representing Tahuti, came from Mexico. When you start studying Anubis and you look at the Anubis or dogs that look like Anubis, the origins come from Mexico. So I'm in Mexico because I'm supposed to be here in Mexico because this is where a lot of this stuff started, was in Mexico, all throughout the Americas, okay? You had temples of Osiris, temples of Isis, and all different types of other temples right inside the Grand Canyon in Arizona, okay? Some of your very first castles that were ever built were built by Aboriginal people in Arizona. And they're still up to this day. When they talk about the Americans, they're talking about us, the original people of America, but we have always had technology. So let me tell you something about this technology. It comes from the drum. It comes from the dance. It comes from the chanting. It comes from the frequency. A lot of us have been cut off from this information because we're speaking a language that is foreign to us and a language that is a dead language. Okay? So you're not in tune to these other frequencies that can help you, assist you to move mountains in the way that you're supposed to. That's why we always say it's not wise whenever you're putting an affirmation out there or a prayer out there to use the English language. Why? Because it is a lower vibrational frequency type of tone and language. Not to mention it has a double meaning when you're speaking it. Okay? So I've seen people, have issues. When I brought Brother Rod Hayes out and he spoke about the situation concerning the king of the Americas. Let me tell you why that's so hard for y'all to process. It's hard for you to process because you don't know nothing about yourself. You don't know nothing about the history other than the history that was taught to you. And who taught you that history? What history did you learn? What his story did you learn? You learned about his story, but what did you learn about your own story? Why did they work so hard to make sure that your story was concealed? And who were the main puppeteers behind making sure that these things would stay hidden? A devil is going to be a devil. I want you to be clear about something. A devil is going to be a devil. For them, it's about self-preservation. So I need you to understand that. For them, it's about self-preservation. But what happens whenever you have the individuals who have the same skin as you, right? That have worked tirelessly to move against you. That have worked tirelessly for your enemy. To hide things from you. To keep you dumbed down. To pull you down every single chance when you try to rise up. What about that enemy? Oh, but we're going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about that today. Because I got to put you guys on notice. Because you guys don't understand what's happening right now, the times that we're living in. You see these ancestors, these first one ancient ancestors. You see, when they see you contributing to the fall of your people, it's a certain type of ass whipping that comes with that. It's a certain type of retribution that's going to come with that when you work for your enemy. It's a certain type of place that they got for you when that punishment comes down on you. And believe it or not, my people, that punishment is coming down on a lot of people right now, even as we speak. It's happening right now, even as we speak. You see, as the frequencies get higher, and they're getting so much higher, I'm going to tell you what's happening. The people that wasn't on the frequency that they were supposed to be on, they're going cuckoo. That includes people that look like us. And let me explain something to you. What they don't realize is that since they have participated in such actions, they have karma. They're coming right back here again. They're not inheriting anything related to 5D Earth. 5D Earth doesn't even want that type of energy on that planet because the frequency is very high. And I know a lot of you guys are sitting up here listening to people who think that they really got it down, and they're misleading you. Because they got you thinking that a particular way of thinking is going to be acceptable. Well, I can assure you, your asses will stay right here where you're at because you haven't evolved past a certain particular way of thought. The first thing you have to do is get rid of that hatred that's in your heart. That's the first thing you're going to have to do. You're going to have to get rid of that hatred that's in your heart towards that which birthed you. You're going to have to get rid of that hatred that's in your heart towards your mother. You're going to have to get rid of that hatred that's in your heart towards the divine feminine energy. I didn't say particular male or female. I'm talking about energy. Men can possess both divine feminine and divine masculine. And no, they don't have to be gay or trans anything to possess this energy for those who are in the know. Because I know some of you guys get this shit confused when I mention divine feminine and y'all begin caught up in feminine shit. You guys are ignorant as hell. Ignorant. Let me keep going. Let me explain to you clearly what the divine feminine energy is. It is nature. It is love. Now, I want you guys to take a hard look around you in your communities and look at how many people that are fighting like tooth and nail to not show that energy, that fight against it, that has waged war against it every chance they get. You see, the original indigenous tribes already understood because they were already in direct alignment with the matriarch energy. This is the reason why we even have the ability and the capacity to love thy enemy, even when your enemy can't do it for himself. We're the most forgiving and the most loving, right? I'm explaining to you where that comes from. It comes from the fact that you are governed, whether you want to admit to it or not, by the divine feminine energy. But here's what happens. You decide that you're going to move against that, and you're actually moving against yourself. So every single time that, I'm going to say this to the brothers, and I want them to be very clear. Every single time you call your woman a bitch, you call your woman a hoe, you degrade her every chance you get, you do everything that you can to oppose her, you still don't seem to understand that you're really just simply opposing a part of who you are. Therefore, you will bring curses down upon your life. You're doing it naturally to yourself. Okay? Now, I'm not saying that you deal with the most ignorant, but what we're supposed to do as human beings is educate one another. That's what it was when I was coming up. We educated one another. And if those could not be educated, then you leave them alone and you keep it pushing. But you don't go out of your way to try to disrupt that energy because it will topple you. It will topple you. And that's exactly what's happening now. Which brings me to the video that this young lady that I posted up on my Instagram channel. If you guys go look at the last video that I posted, the young lady was talking about there's a lot of attacks on indigenous women in Missouri. She thought that it was white men. And see, we always blame these white folks for everything, right? We don't never have any accountability for the shit that we do. I'm not saying that they don't do shit, but you have to learn how to properly discern situations. And then on top of that, you're also going to have to learn how to come to a certain acceptance about how things really are versus how you want them to be. Okay? Listen. If the black women are the most protected, or the most unprotected woman on the planet, whose fault is that? Let me take fault away. Let me take that away, because when I go there, everybody wants to come on board and they want to do this, that, and the third. And I'm not going to take away the responsibility. I'm saying let's speak the facts. If they are the most unprotected, where are the brothers at to protect them? Where they at? Everybody wants to get on board and want to talk about other shit. They want to talk about this and they want to talk about that, but they don't want to have any accountability. And I'm not saying that black women don't have accountability for the shit they do. I'm not saying that. And I want to be clear because I know some of y'all love to throw that up in my face because you don't understand or understand where I'm going with this. Okay? But it needs to be understood that if it is seen that women are not protected, then we become open targets. However, let's talk about this situation with Missouri, because I'm going somewhere with this. When that young lady was talking, I started channeling her energy. And then as I was channeling, I go into a meditation. And I'm starting to look into what's really going on behind the scenes with this situation. And lo and behold, the individuals that are actually doing all this murdering and killing are people that look like us. Let me tell you why that is. The frequencies that we're currently on right now is making a lot of them go crazy because they still harbor that hatred in their heart. And I want you guys to understand the magnitude of how far envy and jealousy can go. I don't really think that any of us have really taken that into consideration. Women, you really need to take the time out and really think about this. But also let me say this, you also need to raise your vibrational frequency. You wouldn't be subject to that if your frequency was high. Because the ones that they're taking out are the ones at the frequency that are low. And unfortunately, during this time period, I already told you was going to see a lot of carnage. I already warned you about these men out here and how they were going to come for the women. I done told you about the witches are now in place. I done told you about the sentinels, these damn things that are in place that are now coming on board. And what did I say was going to happen? I said, you're going to start seeing people drop like flies left and right. This is what's happening. People are dropping like flies left and right because they're not operating on a certain particular frequency. And I also said this is going to be random. Because see, it's not happening with just women and their younger women. It's happening with older women. It's happening with elderly women. It's happening with children. It's random. When we talk about a purge, the purge is going to come by any means necessary. So even though I would like to see justice come to the individuals that are out here doing this, which they do have a horrible death coming to them, but even though that they certain things have to play itself out because the cosmic contracts are up, and now things must manifest as they must manifest. So a lot of you guys are going to be watching. A lot of you guys are going to be aware. But you damn sure need to be aware of the frequencies because there are a lot of people out here that are starting to lose their mind because they did not raise their vibrational frequency to where it's supposed to be. This is why this is happening. I already told you the war started. I already told y'all this, and you're going to continue to keep seeing people fall dead to the wayside. But we need to have that discussion about that hatred. I'm getting wind. I'm getting whispers in the air about there are groups out here of men now that are looking to attack women every chance they get. They're out here listening to Kevin Samuels and shit, and they still don't even fully understand what that man's message